fun anecdote to open the episode.
Ooh.
So
We specialize in antidotes around here.
I guess I do. My roommate and I went down to the New Beverly this weekend to see a double feature of Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Ooh.
Film prints. They look gorgeous. But
Well, of course.
as we were sitting in the theater waiting for the movie to start, they were playing some pre-show music. And what should come on but California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas.
And you wanted to strangle the theater operator, didn't you?
That is not entirely inaccurate.
I mean, you know what they say about these sort of things. All the leaves are brown.
All the leaves are brown. All the leaves are brown.
I dare not hum that right now.
Yes, let's not. Welcome back to the Hack Fraud Show. I am Tyler.
I am John.
Joining me is John and the silent Garrett.
Very silent.
Always.
See, because I don't want to keep saying the old theme song, Sound of Silence, every time you say silent. And there's a silent Garrett. But at the same time, I don't want to say...
Insert Hello Darkness, my old friend, every time Garrett is supposed to introduce himself. and then we go, the silent one.
No, our episodes don't get cited for copyright violations anymore. I'd like to keep it that way. Nobody copyright claims the score from the Grand Budapest Hotel for some reason.
I guess, like, hello, Germany. No. You're listening to this. Can you explain to us why the copyright works like this?
Germany, if you are listening, please accept the Hack Fraud History Show. German YouTube.
We don't even have copyright music on it.
The lone episode.
The lone episode. The one and potentially only episode of that show.
Or maybe we'll just release once a year. So episode 2 comes out in June. We just do once a year.
Sure. I'd be not up for that, but it could happen.
You'll never build a substantial fan base that way.
Well, we're on a weekly basis, and we still can't build fans.
That is so true.
Maybe we all know nothing.
I'm unwilling to spend the money and put in the necessary effort for search engine optimization. So there you are. We're just too lazy. But this week we looked at some Billy Wilder films.
Yes, we did.
A director that I enjoy very much, but had only seen a couple of his famous works. And was this the breaking of that particular seal for the rest of you?
Yes, I don't think, like, of course, like, you hear a lot about, like, Some Like It Hot and Sunset, particularly Sunset Boulevard, but I had, for whatever reason, just never gotten around to them. Especially because Sunset Boulevard seems like something that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
From the get-go, so, like, I'm just curious why I had never seen it, but for whatever reason, it just slipped under my radar.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of Sunset Boulevard, but I never really got around to watch it until recently, so.
Fascinating.
Quite insightful.
Yes.
We are kids. This happens.
Things happen. But, guys, the age-old question, what you been watching?
I've been watching quite a bit of German film.
Oh, boy. More of that.
Okay, let's see. The first one is, this is what I want to talk about first, because the conversation we had with the professor about it, it's called The Nasty Girl.
Okay.
And it started, and my professor, after we watched it, my professor said, "Did you guys think this was going to be porn?" And like one measly man raised his hand in the back. But it is not about porn. It is about it's kind of about like the post-war German mentality in regards to their Nazi history. Because like right now, my German class is in the mode of like looking at modern perspectives of Nazi Germany. Like this week, we're going to be watching Der Untergang, which is the film about Hitler and his bunker from 2004. So like this is a film. I think it's from. I can't remember. Let me look it up. I'll be a scholar.
Will be accurate for the first time ever. We're fact checking.
Yes.
Scholarly, scholarly, scholarly.
The German name actually doesn't directly translate to that, but they chose the nasty girl regardless. It is 1990. It is a woman director, Michelle Verhoeven.
Okay.
I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I can't pronounce anything on the show. But it regards kind of like this girl growing up in a small German town. Like, there's a lot of neat stuff with the location of everything. Like, she lives at a seminary and goes to that seminary. So, like, sometimes she'll be in class and her mother will yell at her from, like, outside the yard. And there's lots of neat scenes. And, like, her father will be teaching, and the mother will yell at him while he's teaching. And they'll just lean out the window, and all the children will gather behind them. At first it kind of starts about sort of being in a Catholic school and that sort of restraint that's put on Catholic kids, particularly sexual. Like, they bring in, like, a male substitute teacher, and it's just this grand scandal.
That sounds fascinating.
It is kind of interesting, and like the filmmaking's kind of interesting because, like, again, like how they use space, and eventually, like, they'll be in a room and they'll project like them in a car onto the walls, so it just looks like they're in like they're like driving around in the living room, and like the city's passing by. It is just a really eye-catching way to stage things. But, like, after it goes kind of from that sort of Catholic framework, like, it kind of shows, like, sort of the corrupt nature of the Catholic schools, whereas, like, the people who donated the most got the best grades, and it kind of shows our main character in a kind of position of privilege because she's kind of curious and intelligent. And eventually she graduates, goes to university to study history, and I think, like, this starts of, like, her teacher recommends that she write an essay, and an essay titled "What My Hometown in the Third Reich," which is sort of like, what did my town do? And originally they thought, like, oh, you're going to talk about the resistance fighters in your town. But eventually, as she does some digging, she finds that, oh, there was no resistance. We got some fucking Nazis here. And it becomes like this fascinating thing where the town doesn't want her to learn anything more. Like, they keep, like, locking the archives, and she keeps having to sue the town to get things. And, like, there's lots of spats because, like, some of the leaders of the town were directly involved with the Nazi government, and it's all about muckraking and, like, this refusal to acknowledge the past, and it kind of shows, like, her family getting caught in the blast radius, especially when people throw actual goddamn dynamite into her home. Like, Wile E. Coyote ran dynamite into the home. And yeah, like, it's really fascinating and interesting, and the main character is a lot of fun to be around. And, like, it's kind of like pseudo mockumentary because, like, a lot of times she'll just look at the camera and tell you what's going on, and like, and she's kind of treating it as like this. I'm documenting myself as I go through the years, and sometimes she'll just tell you, like, then this happened, and now the town was originally against me, but now they seem to be on my side. And so yeah, like, if you want to, like, see, like, a film sort of about the fascinating, like, small town politics and how, like, some things are swept under the rug and muckraking is just really denied, and just sort of like, and also just sort of like a town dealing with a very difficult history, a very difficult past, and like how one should deal with that. It's all about that, and it's really interesting. I recommend The Nasty Girl, even despite, like, it's still kind of it's not the most technically masterful thing in the world. Like, it's still, there's a lot of obvious green screen that you're supposed to tell it's a green screen, but it's still something like it, that it's still something that might catch you off guard, because, like, some of the film is, like, really artificial in look, and then sometimes they just go to a goddamn school and film. So there's that. Another German film I watched it's called Germany Pale Mother, named after the poem by Bertolt Brecht.
All right.
Oh, that guy.
And well, the title is based off the poem on Bertolt Brecht. It's not actually the story isn't based. It's about a woman who is. Oh God, how do I explain this movie? It's a very strange movie. It's pretty much about, like, this woman in the middle of the Third Reich and the war.
Why are all these movies about Nazis?
Yeah. Well, these movies aren't actually made by the Nazis, so it's okay. This class is about Nazis, so it's okay.
Okay.
Her husband goes to war, and like there's a lot of like freakish scenes where like he has to shoot someone who looks like his wife, and then they show him crying, and his comrades are telling him Germans don't cry. It's like, she looked like my wife. It's happened to us too, but you can't cry. And like it's about like this woman just in the middle of like like she gives birth to her daughter in the middle of an air raid. And later on, like we just see her surrounded by like the deterioration of that state as the war turned against them. Like later on when she goes to Berlin, and like they do this fascinating thing where they cut between her, like the footage they shot and like actual archive footage from Berlin in the rubble, and it makes it seem like she's having a conversation with these archival footage, and it's really strange and fascinating. Like there's a moment where like one of the Nazi friends tells her, "You must chew 32 times, one for each teeth," and then she loses all her teeth because her face is getting paralyzed. And yeah, it's also about like how like after the war, the kind of fascist family structure still remained. Like this mother has really no agency within her household, and that's just kind of tearing her apart. Like even pulling her teeth was not her decision. She didn't want that, but the father said so. So that's what happened. So like, yeah, again, it's kind of like.
The fuck is this movie?
It's so fucking. This movie is so fucking weird. Like, I'm genuinely perplexed on how to describe it to you without just making go like, ugh. So yeah, like I can't quite say I recommend this movie because it's really hard to watch. Like some of the imagery is kind of, it's not gruesome. There's no blood in it, but like some of like what this mother goes through is just simply horrifying.
Would one react to seeing this film as a way an old lady would react to seeing Anomalisa? Whoa!
Whoa!
Potentially. But it's still like really interesting, and like it's trying to put like a human face on like what was a very inhuman time, which is interesting, and it's also like a good insight into the post-war mentality and like how like that fascist structure remained even after the political regime fell. So, like, if you find any of this interesting, like I do, I think you'll get something out of it. But like, if all of this just sounds like dry and historical, and Mr. Slavnik, why are you making me eat my vegetables? Then I wouldn't. I can't say I'd recommend it.
Well, I like vegetables more than most, but I'm not sure if I'm prepared for something like that.
I mean, like The Nasty Girl is a bit more fun in its presentation of kind of somewhat similar ideals. It's still about like dealing with a past and sort of fascistic ideals keep on going even after the political regime has fallen. So an interesting doubleheader to say the least. And of course, like Alex just looked at it like. And of course, I tried to quadruple task while watching it, whereas I had a text conversation with Reed in one window, the movie in another, homework in one, and then the email in the other. So maybe I didn't get as much out of it as I should have.
Well, what can you do?
Exactly. I'm a pseudo workaholic, and I think I apologize that took so long. I think that is all I watched.
All right, Reed, have you anything here?
I do.
Oh,
actually.
Oh, good.
So, on Friday, I went with Matthew to see my first ever non-Studio Ghibli Japanese anime film, Your Name.
Your Name?
Recently.
Is that the name
yes.
of the film? Okay.
Your Name. Yeah, it's kind of this Japanese smash hit.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah. And we saw...
Matthew has shown me parts of it too, so at least I have some...
oh, good. Oh, yeah.
With it. I can talk about the sum.
So, it was interesting, and... I liked it. It plays a lot with time, especially because time goes all over the place, and then like it plays off the themes of like time weaves in and out of time to the point of almost the bullshit.
Yeah, like the way it like plays with time and like cuts between eras, and like especially like there's this big reveal at the end that tells you like what you saw before wasn't what you thought. It's kind of strange in that way. It's also about like gender roles and like how we interpret gender.
Yes, there's that too, and also
pseudo body horror here and
Oh, lots of body horror. Lots of body horror.
Second
It's
week in a
animated.
row.
Yeah, and then part of the part that made me go, I'm a little unsure, is when these two characters take advantage of this time gap leap, this like playing with time to essentially change the past.
Interesting.
So originally, there was a meteor shower that split its nucleus, and then the little fallen rock hit and then destroyed an entire Japanese town.
Is that a spoiler? Oh, who gives a fuck? We don't care about spoilers.
Who gives a fuck? And that was a great allusion to the 2011 Fukushima disaster with the earthquake. And then essentially these two characters, work together, and then what's her name? Damn it.
Your name? Kill me.
Natusha, yeah, or Mitsuha, yeah. She ends up going full Miyazaki, and then takes control, and then basically is trying to save the town from this disaster, and succeeds.
Yeah, I didn't get to that part.
Well, this...
Yeah, and then, so, it never happened. So the disaster didn't kill as many people, actually killed no one.
So two body-swapping teenagers save a Japanese town from a meteorite.
Yep.
Well, this sounds interesting.
It also is absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
This, I think, I've seen of the director's work before. I can't. His name is unpronounceable to me, so I'm not going to attempt to read. If you want to, go ahead.
It is Makoto Shinkai.
Makoto Shinkai. He has an absolutely gorgeous animation style. Like, the stuff he does with lighting in his films is utterly stunning.
Especially with the comet and meteor sequences.
Yeah, like his films are worth watching just on looks alone, because like they're absolutely stunning. The way he animates the mundane is just utterly stunning. So like if you're just looking for some gorgeous animation, this is it.
Especially with societal machinations, because you get a lot of Tokyo and you get a lot of mechanics, because you get a lot of shots of just trains going by, going here and there, and then you get a bunch of shots of highways and cars, and just sort of the mundane, the more cosmopolitan life, and then it's more juxtaposed with the more village life outside of the big city Tokyo.
His compositions kind of have my habit of taking the mundane and shooting it in a really goofy way, so it kind of looks more forward than it actually is. That's kind of what I get from his stuff.
There are so many shots of just the doors closing, and it's not closing like sideways. No, as in the side of the door is coming towards you.
Well,
and it occurs at least every 10-15 minutes on average, and it's a really fascinating movie, and I do recommend it, even though the love interest it's okay. It's better than most. It's better than maybe Sunset Boulevard, but
I don't. My issue with it is it's like, from what I've seen, it's kind of tropey, and like its editing style is montagey at times. Like and also Japanese animation needs to stop using so many fucking J-pop songs. I'm just gonna lend that out there.
I mean, I guess it's okay since we don't know the lyrics.
It makes it better, but not good.
Yeah, makes it better, not good, and then it also makes it like a very modern story.
Very modern.
So I mean, it kind of works.
It's not that thing. So like, interesting. Like it's kind of like this Japanese. Wasn't it the highest grossing movie in Japan?
I think it's like the fourth highest grossing. I was just looking at this.
Currently at the box office, it has $332.9 million.
Made a lot of money.
Lots of money. I am open to seeing some non-Ghibli anime films. I hear the original Ghost in the Shell is fantastic. And
I need to show you guys some Satoshi Kon at some point.
Yes, Satoshi Kon.
If you love Inception, you're gonna really love Paprika.
Oh boy.
It's like Paprika does all the things Inception does, but better. But we'll get to that.
Oh, I think Reed, do you have anything else to talk about? Because this kind of leads directly into what I'm about to say.
Take it away.
All right. I don't want to steal your thunder, but so I have a lot of things I rewatched, but I'll try to speed through these. But this one might provoke a long discussion. I finally rewatched, at the request of my roommates, Christopher Nolan's Interstellar.
Come on, Tyler. How's
Interstellar. There's a solid half hour in the middle of this movie that is great. From when Matthew McConaughey and his team of astronauts, they go into space, they go through the wormhole, all of that stuff up until when they go down to the water planet and they come back up and it's been 23 years. That and Matthew McConaughey sees all the video messages from his family. All that stuff is great.
That's one of the greatest Nolan things, period, is just him looking at his children grow up in front of him and just having no mental faculties but just to cry.
Yes.
And that's just wonderful.
Incredible. Matthew McConaughey is great in that scene. All that stuff is great. The rest of the movie, whoo boy. I had thought we might rewatch this movie when we do our Christopher Nolan episode at some point down the line. I think I have saved us from that because, boy howdy, this movie is so stupid.
Tyler, a Christopher Nolan movie being stupid? Well, I never.
Look.
I'll put my gun away.
Look, I like a lot of Christopher Nolan movies. I love Inception. I really like The Prestige. Interstellar, God, the first, they spend a fucking hour on Earth before Matthew McConaughey goes into space. All that is just so not interesting. It's so boring. And
the designs aren't interesting at all.
They're just setting up the third act twist, which, God, the third act twist is so stupid. And let me tell you, that scene in the middle where Anne Hathaway talks about how love is the one thing we're capable of pursuing. God damn, that scene is awful. Awful. It is so bad. It is the worst thing that Christopher Nolan has ever done. And
every time I see that, I go, God, that's so fucking stupid.
And the fact that Anne Hathaway is playing a brilliant scientist and she's just totally controlled by her lady boner, man, that is just such a bummer.
I'm going to ask this, because I think all this stuff about Interstellar has been done before, where we just rip at the pieces.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this, what is in the other Nolan movies that you like that is not in here? Because I'm going to say this,
Stop. Can we have the Nolan War later? Because I feel like we're about ready to get into a Nolan War, and we already have World War III. Very close.
I know.
Just postpone, please.
I just want to get this straight, because when people criticize Interstellar and Dark Knight Rises and so on and so forth, rightly so, for being stupid, overly complex, just nonsensical. I think to myself, these things are in all Nolan movies. To me, none of these things are unique to these films.
We're going to discuss this at a later date. We're going to do a whole episode on this, I promise. For now, I will just say the emotional dynamics of Interstellar feel so sappy and contrived, and just the logic of it is not just the stuff in Inception. The logic of Inception maybe doesn't necessarily make sense either, but you buy it because the emotional dynamics of that movie work and make sense, and at least to me, and the ones in Interstellar just don't. But we'll talk more about that later. That's all I'm going to say right now.
That's all I wanted.
Anyway, other things I watched. A lot of my favorite TV is coming back, but we'll kind of hold off on that. Better Call Saul and Doctor Who both had their season premieres this week. I might be out on Doctor Who, but that's a discussion for a later date.
We'll get Warner in here. We'll talk about that.
Let's see.
You'll destroy the podcast.
I rewatched John Carney's Sing Street. Have I talked about that on the show?
Sing Street?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like the underground musical hit of last year.
Yes. Well, don't know about the hit part, but that's just a delightful movie. Yeah. I highly recommend it. The original music in it is all good stuff. Some of it is kind of tropey, But it all really works. There's a great kind of like brotherly emotional dynamic in there. That's all good stuff. That's a very good movie. It was one of my favorites of last year. My friend and I watched Kubo and the Two Strings.
Ooh,
The
how was that?
Leica stop motion film. Good movie. It's the visuals are just spectacular. That kind of goes without saying. But they are really like they kind of blew me away. It's a surprisingly somber story for a children's film. It's got some very interesting kind of melancholic elements at play that work really well. It's not like I wouldn't put it in like the great animated movies, but it's visually dazzling and it's a good experience. I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, the trailers kind of made it seem like sort of like flippant action fantasy, where like what you're describing is a bit more subdued.
Yeah, it did. I mean, there definitely are kind of action fantasy elements, but really the emotional dynamics of it really surprised me. So that was a kind of a pleasant surprise, even though it had gotten pretty much universal praise. Let's see. I was going to watch Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru, but I found out that movie was much longer than I thought it was. So instead... That's
sadly our experience is so much of Kurosawa.
Well, I am not going to be able to use that excuse anymore because I rewatched fucking Interstellar, but which that movie feels like 8 hours long. But what I watched instead, at the behest of my friend, was Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler.
Ooh, that film. Yes,
kind of a sleeper hit from several years ago. It was kind of a big figure in the 2008 Oscar season. Good movie. I didn't love it, but it has a very... Mickey Rourke in it is just incredible. He gives an outstanding performance. Marissa Tomei, also very good in the movie. It's a very... I mean, talk about a melancholic movie. That movie has so many just crazy emotional dynamics going on, and this is us talking about this for the second week in a row, but I feel like the creator of BoJack Horseman probably watched this movie a lot when he was coming up with the show.
Because is it about like him like just constantly doubting himself?
It's the same, kind of a similar story about like just a former star who is just dealing with his age and kind of his brokenness inside. It's just... It's a very interesting experience. I didn't love
some of my favorite experiences.
I didn't love the movie, but I definitely think it's worth a watch, and it got some very interesting things. And it's shot on I believe 16 millimeter, so it's shot in kind of a not really documentary. It's kind of like a
voyeuristic.
Not really. He's got an interesting way of shooting where he'll kind of I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, it's a lot of long takes, but, like, the cuts are very interestingly placed. Just the way it cuts is very strange, where it'll kind of... I don't really know. But...
Are they, like, jump cuts? Or...
Kind of, yeah. They'll kind of, like cut and, like, continue a conversation that they had been having, but they've moved slightly. Like, I feel like Wes Anderson and some other people, like, do that kind of thing sometimes. But... It's got an interesting shooting style, very great performances, very interesting story. So I recommend The Wrestler.
This seems like right up my alley. I like stories about older people dealing with their dealing with the fact that their prime is past.
Yes.
So interesting.
Yes. And then what else? I guess I don't really need to talk about Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. I've seen those movies about 12 times each. They're great. I kind of rediscovered how incredible Pulp Fiction is. Just let me tell you, you have not fully experienced Pulp Fiction until you've seen it in a theater with a packed house. That was just an incredible experience.
Well, that would be a lot of fun.
I know you kind of are hung up on how Pulp Fiction is really like just a movie about being a movie and not much else, but
yeah, it's kind of marshmallow fluff, but like it's delicious marshmallow fluff. Like the dialogue's great. Like everyone loves. It's iconic. What the fuck does John Slavnik have to fucking say about Pulp Fiction to get people to watch it? I think you've already seen it.
Yes, that's probably true. Anyway, and then...
And I love Reservoir Dogs, so...
Oh, good, yes. Reservoir Dogs, I also love that movie. So I guess I will close out what we've been watching once again with some Fast and Furious movies. And...
The saga continues.
The saga
Oh boy.
continues.
Oh boy.
I have not seen the new one yet, but I may have to eat my words a little bit because I said on the last show that I couldn't like any of these movies unironically. Very quickly after saying that, I watched Fast and Furious 6, which is kind of unironically a good movie. It's the damnedest thing.
It's good. Who knew?
I feel like the 5 hits higher highs, but 6 like is a more consistently solid movie across the board. It's I feel like it's one of the ones that kind of gets swept under the rug sometimes, but I really enjoyed it. It incorporates like kind of a Bondian element into the movie, in the franchise, in an interesting way, as opposed to a boring way like the 4th one did. So they all the team is back together. Everyone you loved from 5, they're all back together. The Rock is there,
of course,
and they all they are kind of co-opted by The Rock and his government agency to become secret agents and take down what's interesting about it is like the villains in this movie are kind of a bizarro like team. Like you have like a guy, you have like the one guy in the world who's bigger than The Rock as like the tough guy. You've got couple like parallel figures, and they actually comment on it. Like Tyrese Gibson like is like looking at screens with the bad guys on them, and he's like, how come everybody like is like a weird version of us or something like that, which is so on the nose but is fucking hilarious.
That sounds hilarious.
And we have the grand return of Michelle Rodriguez, who has amnesia for some reason after being thought dead for the last couple of movies. I don't know. That stuff maybe doesn't work super well, but it's great to have her back. I like Fast and Furious 6. It's a decent movie. So
With it on all the posters, Fast and Furious 6, unironically good.
There is one thing that really bothered me about it, which is that there is a character death in this movie, which a character dies basically just by like falling off of a plane, and Vin Diesel in this movie survives a car crash inside of a fiery plane crash. And when I saw that, I was like, well, fuck you, movie. But,
Tyler, the more you talk about these movies, the more I am starting to want to watch them. Because they sound like such batshit crazy experiences that should be shared with friends.
I agree with that.
I'm just trying to visualize that because
I don't want to visualize it. I just want to watch.
Yes,
I am definitely going to drag Matthew to campus this week and sit him down to watch Too Fast, Too Furious.
I highly recommend that. But anyway, after avoiding it for a while, I finally circled back and watched the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, which is the 6th film in the internal chronology of the movies, but the 3rd film
you mean the eternal
come
chronology.
Out. Anyway, Tokyo Drift is an okay movie that most of the problems in it come from the lead actor, Lucas Black, who I don't want to rag on him too hard, because apparently the accent he uses in the movie is his real accent, but like, imagine if, like, not to denigrate the dead, but like, imagine if Paul Walker were even more white bread and had like a terrible like backwoods country accent. You would get the lead actor in this movie.
Dreadful.
Which is pretty terrible. But this movie is elevated from like a C- to a B- by like 2 things, which is one, like drifting actually like is really cool and looks really cool. Just the idea of it looks great on screen. And Sung Kang as Han is so charismatic in this movie. He is great. He just kind of carries the middle part of the movie.
He called Han Solo.
They never say it explicitly in the movies, but his name is Han Seoul, like capital of South Korea, Seoul dash OH, Seoul O, which
That's
is,
terrible.
I love it. So, I can't totally recommend Tokyo Drift, but it's got some good things in it. And then,
Is Too Fast, Too Furious still your favorite?
well, kind of. I think Fast 5 is like empirically the best, but the one I most enjoyed is probably Too Fast, Too Furious. Although, Furious 7 is the most unabashedly goofy of these movies since Too Fast, Too Furious. And I really enjoyed Furious 7.
You,
I know I have gone like back and forth on these movies so many times, but
you have accepted them as your Lord and Savior.
I guess. I don't know. Furious 7, okay, so the seams really show at the beginning of this movie because Paul Walker died like halfway through filming, which is tragic and very sad, but they try very hard to kind of stitch together the opening parts and kind of seed that he will leave at the end of it. But like the middle with all like the action set pieces, you would not even, I didn't even notice if they had like altered anything. Like it's seamless. Those are all very fun and very well put together. And there's a part where they they dive cars out of an airplane, where they drive a car across the space in between two skyscrapers, which is so great. These movies are at their best when they totally lean into the goofiness, and this movie does that. But it also has just a really beautiful ending where they give Paul Walker just the happy ending he couldn't have in real life, and I was surprised by how much that actually kind of affected me. It really works.
I mean, some people in dark times turn to religion, others turn to science, but Tyler turns to the Fast and the Furious movie.
He turns to Too Fast, Too
Kind of.
Furious.
Yes, so I highly recommend Furious 7. I think my final, ranking of them would be like 5, 7, 6, 2, maybe 2, 6, 3, 4, 1. But definitely the one I would like most likely pop in would be either 7 or Too Fast, Too Furious.
Thus, until the Fate of the Furious comes out, thus ends the Fast and the Furious saga for Tyler.
Yes. I may see it tonight. Who knows? All right, let's get to the meat of this thing.
Okay, now we go from goofy popcorn plebeian pictures to the films of Billy Wilder.
Yes. So I had hoped to watch Double Indemnity along with the assigned movies this week. I did not have time for that, unfortunately, but we watched
the Furious 7. The Furious 7.
Yes. But we watched Sunset Boulevard and The Apartment.
Yes.
1950.
Made 10 years from each other.
Were they?
Yeah, I think one was 19.
Oh, yes.
I think The Apartment was 1960. Sunset Boulevard's 1950.
Yes, indeed. You were right about that. All right, so where do we want to start?
Reed, which one did you actually see?
I saw Sunset Boulevard.
Okay, we'll start with that one.
I think you may have picked the right movie for once.
Yes.
But Sunset Boulevard, 1950. This was the second time I've seen this movie. It was actually the first movie I ever saw in my first film class at film school. They screened it. It's kind of the inaugural screening, which was interesting. I am glad I watched this movie again because it's a very interesting movie and it's got a lot of good stuff going for it.
It's a rather complex film.
It really is.
It's
and
deceptively simple.
Surprisingly cynical for its time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of impressed with what they were able to get away with. Like, one thing I love about this movie, okay, to just kind of set this up. So, William Holden plays, I think his name is Jack Gillis, or Joe Gillis.
That sounds about right.
Just
call him Gillis.
Yes. Kind of currently unemployed Hollywood screenwriter who's struggling to find work.
Potential hack fraud.
Yes. Falls in with Norma Desmond, a faded silent film star played by Gloria Swanson, an actual former silent film star,
Yep.
which is a great little bit
and
of
she is
metacasting.
hamming it up and glorious.
Oh, it is pretty glorious, isn't it?
I'm still big. It's the pictures that got small.
Yes, but one thing I love about this movie is that it takes place in kind of a heightened version of the real world, but it still uses like real names and stuff. Like Cecil B. DeMille shows up playing himself, which is great.
One of like the waxworks is Buster Keaton.
Oh my gosh, yes. I noticed that in the credits.
There, like it's kind of like this odd, surreal musing on like Hollywood past, and that's really fast. Like there's like there's like kind of the history of like in the 20s when like these stars built these palaces in Hollywood, and like how there was an entire culture surrounding silent films of the era, and we didn't have words, we had faces.
Yes, you get all of that. A lot of interesting musing on the way like silent film kind of was phased out and how you just lost so many great stars of that period.
Great artists like Buster Keaton of all people were just inadequate.
Just couldn't adapt. Very interesting musings on like the studio system and the writing process and the process of making movies. I think he has a great line where he says something like he wrote, oh God, what is it? Like something about, I can't remember what it is exactly, but like he wrote some script and he's like, by the time they had made it, it ended up like on a torpedo deck or something like that. That's just a great little kind of touch of a line. And I love it. I love all that stuff in this movie. It's all like kind of just heightened enough where it
there's kind of a distance from it.
Yeah.
I don't. That's it. Like it's oddly somber and straight-faced about Hollywood. And from 1950, I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah.
I think also I think Norma Desmond is. I mean, she's hamming it up. It's just a really hammy and vain character, but there's something oddly vulnerable about her.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
And that's like really interesting to watch. I mean, this is something it has in common with The Apartment. Just like a really honest depiction of suicide.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like. This movie is very kind of dark for the time. Norma at some like Gillis kind of runs away and she is just like so distraught that she commits suicide, or attempts to commit suicide, which lures him back into the fold under her spell. And their relationship is just so strange and so fascinating. Just the kind of the codependency of it all.
Yeah, like how she's kind of treating him as like this toy for her.
Yeah.
As like someone to buy gifts for and someone to take out. And so I guess something like it's just really interesting to see sort of like, I mean, this character adores Hollywood and adores like her idea, the idea of her as a star. Yeah. But it so obviously destroyed her. And she has like such this toxic relationship to that industry. And like and how it just eventually kind of just drives her mad, like this quest for stardom, this quest to remain relevant. Yeah. And especially, like, there's something just painfully relevant about, like, the montage of her trying to fix herself up to look young.
Oh, my God. That sequence is so... Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a very strange movie for the time, too.
Yeah, it's such an anomaly in so many ways, and it's so strange that this movie kind of became a revered classic... in light of all of that.
Watching it was like this was this a hit?
It was
this a hit? Like, that's like how many people went out and like were just buying this up? Like I'm just sort of like
this movie got a lot of Oscar nominations.
And also just so iconic too. Like the sort of him in the pool is sort of like this iconic image from the movie.
Yeah.
Like whenever someone tells you about narration, they use that.
Right. Reed, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I wasn't too crazy about the narrator throughout all this, especially considering that at one point the narrator was a dead guy, especially towards the end, as the final scene was narrating. But Norma Desmond in her fantasy land of still being a glamorous Hollywood star is especially fascinating, and especially where it goes at the very end when all these policemen, all these reporters come, and she's
yeah, we haven't even touched on Max yet. Her butler and former husband, who just kind of perpetuates this fantasy land for her. It's
and knowing that makes a scene where he brings Gillies to the husband's bedroom. Yeah, this is there's a lot of layers to this movie in regards to sort of, and also just like the mansion, this sort of palace she built is just a fascinating place. It's such a fascinating world.
It's a great location, and like just the filmmaking in this, like it's kind of a noir. Like Billy Wilder, I think Double Indemnity was kind of a very influential kind of piece of film noir, and this movie
There's
kind of
a lot of noir elements in this.
Yeah, this movie kind of adapts a lot of those elements into the shooting style and the lighting and all of that stuff, which makes it a very, very kind of interesting movie to look at.
Yeah, it's very visually arresting at times. Like how they shoot the mansion is particularly interesting.
Yeah, very high contrast. And I love that part where she goes onto the film stage to see Cecil B. DeMille, and the guy kind of like turns the spotlight on her, and she's kind of basking in it, and everyone kind of gathers around her. That's just an incredible scene.
I guess my problems with it is that, like, I'm kind of with Reed. I wish it didn't rely so much on narration so often.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind it every. I think it's kind of cute that like a dead guy's narrating it. I think that's actually I kind of like that gimmick.
Yeah.
But sort of like sometimes they're just like, you could just show us. And like the best parts of this movie are just when like us being shown what's going on rather than his narration. Like the ending goes on without narration. I think all the moments, the moment we're describing where she's kind of just basking, that's without narration. I just wish it wouldn't rely on that so much. And also like it's kind of tropey in some regards. Like his writing partner, that he kind of has this.
Oh yes, Betty Schaefer, I think is her name. Yeah, she's
kind of stock. And, I don't. Yeah. I understand why she's there, but I'm like, you could make her more interesting.
She's very much a prototypical Hollywood woman, and that stuff doesn't work too well.
No, that's.
I think it is interesting to see like kind of him kind of trying to worm his way out of this like kind of prison he's made for himself. Just trying to work with her on a project and kind of get back into the game. But all that stuff with them kind of like falling in love. And then I do love that moment though, where he like calls her to like come and see him like in Norma's house. And she's just kind of horrified. And
what the fuck is this?
That's good stuff. But yeah, overall, she's kind of not a great character, but
I mean, she's perfectly adequate from like a mechanical standpoint, because like she's sort of like this glimpse of freedom in this proverbial Hotel California that he's built. She could be more interesting. That's just the thing. So yeah, I'm not too sure what else to say about, because like this movie is like it's just really iconic. Like I'm ready for my close up, Mr. DeMille. It's like this iconic line.
Yeah.
So like I really don't have much to say else. Like if you haven't seen it, like the lunatic that is me, you should probably watch it. Yeah, this is kind of a movie just right up my alley. It's about like people in their middle age having a crisis about their relevance, with lots of great film noir techniques, and so forth. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, that last scene is a masterpiece. Kind of wraps the whole thing up very, very nicely. It's a really good movie. I would never tell anyone that it's not a great movie. It has its flaws, but they're kind of like the typical like old Hollywood flaws. I feel like.
It hasn't aged as well as some of like the other like classic masterpieces that we discussed on the show.
Yeah, I mean nothing's aged as well as Citizen Kane, but
that might not even be worth talking about, because that's so much of an anomaly.
Yeah, but Sunset Boulevard acquits itself very well, and I like it. Recommend.
Well, what do you think, Reed? Do you like it?
I think it's appreciated.
The Norma Desmond cut, where it's all from her perspective.
Yes.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
I'd be super into that, and with her doing the narration instead of Gillis. Oh, that would be incredible.
Oh yeah.
That's not a call for Hollywood to make that, but
no, but like that.
No.
I would definitely watch something like that.
Yeah, I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah.
We need to write it, but regardless.
No. Yeah,
No.
some of the shots in the beginning were promising because it seems like a typical Hollywood shooting with like some relative close-ups on people. And,
Yeah,
well, that was mainly like towards the middle.
The
Like,
cinematography
there's
is
these
a
like,
bit more intimate than it usually is.
yeah, I think there's some parts where it's like, oh, this is what I call standard shot, even though that's a non-technical term.
I feel like the credits are kind of unusual for this kind of film. Where, like they're on the road and they're showing up on there, which is kind of
Well,
it's kind of like typically you just get like a title card.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the shooting style, like Billy Wilder has a very classical like style of shooting, which makes sense because he was kind of brought up in that era. But my roommate is actually taking a class on him right now, and he told me that Billy Wilder said something like, if a shot like makes the audience go, "Oh, that's a cool shot," then it's a bad shot because it is taking the audience out of the story. So that's kind of, I think, his perspective on that.
Interesting.
Which is an interesting perspective to have, and kind of explains a lot about the apartment. But
Though I think there's like some cool things in the apartment. As far as like
I like the visual style of his movies, but
yeah. Are we ready to talk about the apartment then?
let's do it.
I think in regards to his visual style, I adore like the Kafka-esque office that he builds that just seems to go on forever.
Yeah, that's great. So this movie, The Apartment, 1960, made well into when kind of color film was taking over Hollywood, but this movie shot in like widescreen, like 235, but still in
like, was it like Panavision? Or?
Panavision, yeah, but still in black and white, which is so interesting. You really don't see that a lot. Like, I'm struggling to think of another movie that's in like ultra widescreen that's in black and white. Nothing's really coming to my mind. But The Apartment,
Wells might have did that, but I'll check on that.
It's kind of a romantic comedy with some interesting kind of wrenches thrown in there. This movie was very successful. Won awards for Best Picture. Billy Wilder won Best Director. Very much beloved movie, and I like it a lot. It's
but
the visuals of it.
I really like this movie. I really love the cactusocracy that they build out of this office building, which cactusocracy is like in informal terms, it's government of the worst. And this is just like this. It's about like this man, C.C. Baxter, who has made his way up the corporate ladder by renting out his apartment as a fuck pad for his bosses. Yes,
he allows the higher-ups at this insurance company that he works at to use his apartment for affairs, and
it is a fuck bunker in every sense of the word. And the movie's surprisingly blunt about that.
This movie is so upfront about like the sex, and it deals with like suicide in a very interesting way, and this movie is really, really like blunt and like no holds barred especially for the time period.
I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the most honest portrayals of suicide I think I've ever seen in a movie.
It's incredible, and
I'm just so surprised they got. I mean, this is United Artists. This isn't like the proper like studio. Yeah. That must be noted, but like. I mean, like, and like how they get it through is that like, I don't think they ever say the word sex or something. It's all kind of
they do when Jack Lemmon brings back that woman from the bar.
Sex pot, yeah, that sort of thing.
And like, it's just so funny because his neighbors think that he's the one banging all these girls,
like constantly having sex.
So they're all very they all think of him as a very much a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a fuck machine, I guess.
Hound dog, yes.
Yes.
You must have some iron kidneys there.
But
do us a favor and donate your body to the university.
Yeah. So
and that's great.
So Jack Lemmon plays C.C. Baxter. He falls in love with this elevator operator played by an adorable young Shirley MacLaine.
Yes.
Who, unbeknownst to him, is having an affair with, like, his boss.
Yes. That's, like, such an interesting thing. Like, everyone in this office is having affairs with each other. Like, they never go outside the office. Like, when they're, like, I'm calling my mistress or someone, they're always, like, calling to the call room.
The switchboard operator, yes.
Secretary, yes. And that's just the world of this office is so interesting.
Yeah, it's the set design of it. I was actually going to talk about that. You beat me to the punch there. But the office seems to go on forever, and there's like, I think it says like 31,000 people like work in the building, and they dismiss the floors at different times so as not to crowd the elevators.
Have an efficient elevator schedule. There's enough people in this office as there is in so-and-so Nebraska.
Yes, that's all great. And
it's very theatrical, this movie. Not in the sense that like it's over the top, though it is kind of that. But it's very like set bound in its design. Like there's like two locations: this office building and his apartment. And like actually no, there's also like they go to the bars, but you could also see that being built in a play.
Yeah,
it's very I don't know, maybe just Jack Lemmon being in it just kind of put me in this mindset. Mm. But like it's all very dialogue driven and all very like very set bound. Like when you look out the windows of the apartment, it's so clearly like a matte painting that's been constructed.
Yeah,
in not a way that's distracting, and in just a way that it's kind of just a part of this world.
Well, what I love about this movie is that like kind of the first half like bounces back and forth between like a bunch of locations, like a restaurant and the office and his apartment and the streets and that kind of thing, and then like. The second half is like kind of an interior piece that like almost all of it takes place at his apartment.
Yeah, like the extent, like the whole, like when I didn't get Fran's her name.
Yes.
When
Shirley
she
MacLaine.
attempts suicide, like the movie pretty much becomes bound to that apartment,
right?
And it's just about like them bouncing off each other.
Right.
And
Shirley MacLaine
like,
kind of finds out that the guy, what is his name, Mr. Sheldrake. Which I think is a common name between Sunset Boulevard and this movie, but if I'm not mistaken. But she finds out he's not going to leave his wife, and she overdoses on sleeping pills. And the doctor, like his Jack Lemmon's neighbor, who's a doctor, comes over, and like there's a long sequence of them like reviving her, which is incredible to watch.
Very blunt.
Yeah.
Like you hear her like throwing up in the sound design. Like it's not something like they just cut away to a bit later. Like you are faced with this uncomfortable thing pretty up front.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This movie it's very charming, but it's also weirdly dark sometimes, but in a very compelling way. And Jack Lemmon.
Sweet is the word for me.
Yeah, and I think Jack Lemmon is giving an incredible performance.
Oh my God.
This is a great role for him. It's a really good movie, and
it's it deals like the main relationship between Jack Lemmon and Fran. That's just really sweet.
Yeah.
That's just like a really sweet, genuine, natural relationship.
Yeah, it takes time, and they just the dialogue in this movie is incredible. I love the kind of the motif of like such and such wise.
Yes,
I think at one point he says like. Money-wise, time-wise, or otherwise wise.
yes, otherwise wise. That's such a great moment. The world of this office is utterly fascinating. Like the hierarchy of this office is like I just can't get away from this. Like he's renting out his apartment as a fuck bunker in the 1960s.
It's such a strange premise that like it works so well. Like
that is so funny.
That's almost something you would never even see in a movie these days.
No, yeah, that's so racy to me. The sort of character, like it's just so. I think it's bluntness is what lends it its power. Because like you would expect like doop-de-doop-de-doo, like his girl Friday,
right?
Bringing up baby, sort of classic Hollywood screwball comedy, and what you get is something that's almost. It reminds me of Neil Simon a lot.
Yeah, it's very much kind of that ilk.
Mm-hmm. And not just because Jack Lemmon's in it.
Well, I think actually, I think this movie was like adapted into a musical where I think Neil Simon wrote the book.
Interesting.
Fun fact. Yeah, it's got some very great like kind of witty repartee. The screenplay is super solid. The visuals are interesting. Cool. Performances are like firing on all cylinders. It's a great movie.
Yeah, this is a great little romantic comedy.
I think
I highly recommend this.
I think I've talked myself into liking it more than I thought I did, but
you were kind of like sort of in the beginning.
But no, it's really good. And Some Like It Hot. I've seen most of it. I think I came in like I was kind of like going back through it the other day, and I think I missed more of the beginning than I had thought. But I've seen most of that movie, and that movie is also kind of operating on a very interesting level. So that might be.
Is it as blunt as this, or
I don't think so. It's definitely more goofy, just because it centers on like two guys like just cross dressing to hide from the mob. But the relationships in that movie are good. Tony Curtis, like, who wasn't really known for comedy, gives a great comedic performance in that movie. It's Jack Lemmon again, who is of course great.
he's a great performer.
Yeah. So that's a movie we might look at in the future.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to say this is going to be my finishing piece on The Apartment. Is that it's a great New York movie.
It really is.
Like, this is like, I mean, there's like no like obvious like new, because like I mean, Woody Allen is known as the New York director, but like he has like this very like nostalgic, romantic view of the city, and it feels like we've described it as like this fantasy vision of Manhattan, whereas this just feels very honest and sober. Like they kind of capture the atmosphere of the city really well.
Yeah.
The Apartment, we really love it.
Yeah, really good. Great movie. So that is that for Billy Wilder Week.
A success.
A success. I love it when this happens. Let's see. So, what do we want to do next time?
Well, Tyler, you were talking about how you wanted to do some more Japanese animated movies. I was thinking we could do Satoshi Kon Week.
Well, I think Warner wanted to wait until he could come back on the show to do that.
I think his brain would get blown out of his fucking head. But we can do that.
Yeah.
Because Paprika especially is really mind fucky.
I
in the sense that like, oh god, it's so pretty and colorful. It's like it's really. That narrative is just so trippy at times.
I do want to do that episode because I'm very curious about, especially the way you've talked about Paprika. I'm very curious.
Yeah, like if you want to get like a taste of what that movie's like just pull up the trailer of it, and because the trailer does not lie about it.
Good.
Or just go to like your local supermarket, go to the spice aisle, go take a paprika off the shelf, and just open it and just shove it in your mouth.
But seriously, folks, what for next time?
What do we want to watch?
What else can we do? I've got a list here.
Ooh.
Let's see. I've thought about doing a like kind of B-level Scorsese episode. I've got early Hitchcock, some more westerns, Hong Kong action films. That could be interesting.
Yes, that would be interesting.
What do we feel?
What Hong Kong action films were you thinking of?
Probably some John Woo stuff. I think Hard Boiled is one that comes up a lot. And I think he made another one with Chow Yun-fat that was kind of also... There's another film that he did with the kind of the same actor called The Killer. So would we be perhaps interested in doing Hard Boiled and The Killer?
So, and are both these John Woo?
Yes, these are both John Woo films starring Chow Yun-fat, both Hong Kong films.
I have heard quite a bit about John Woo because he kind of has like this kind of reputation about him as the batshit crazy Hong Kong director. But like, I've never seen a John Woo picture. So
nor have I.
No, never have either.
All right.
So like, so this will be interesting.
All right, let's do it.
God, this is such a strange podcast.
Hong Kong action films coming your way. Hard Boiled and The Killer.
Great titles.
This will be fun. I hope.
Hard Boiled is just a great name for anything.
That is very true. So, all right. I look forward to discussing these films next week.
I hope we don't have like the Seijun Suzuki conversation. What the fuck again?
We might, but we'll see what happens.
Actually, you know what? I want to have that conversation again because that was really fun to do Seijun Suzuki Week.
That was really fun.
Actually, I'm looking at the trailer for I'm looking at the movie poster for Hard Boiled, and it's kind of shot like a magazine where it's got like insets of two other people, then like a bunch of words that I feel like Chinese. But then the main picture is a guy
Chow
in one
Yun
hand
Fat.
holding a shotgun, and in the other hand,
Holding a baby.
a baby with skin folds.
I've never seen this shit.
With skin
Not to spoil
folds.
anything, but I've heard there's a scene in this movie where he like walks through a building shooting people up like holding the baby, and I'm looking forward to this immensely.
Sold!
Sold. All right.
Oh,
See you next week.
majestic.
Adieu,
Goodbye,
everyone.
friend.
We shall see you
Dude.
once more. Can you back up a little bit?
I'll back up. I'll back up.
All right.
Dramatic.
Ooh.
Oh, good joke.
Good lord. Okay.
I'm not just going to make it the shit fest that you think it might be.
That is comforting to hear.